All right, so we're going to go to our next step, which I thought was going to be the Pytest Configure, but we're actually going to do that one last for this file. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to configure our environment. So basically, we're going to store it into an env variable, and then we're going to save our envs that we specify to our JSON file, and then reload that. So to do that, let's make a method. Call this configure env. This will take a config. And what we're going to do is we're going to set env is equal to none or null in some languages, if you're familiar with that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open our environment file with read access. I guess write access, read plus, yeah. So then we'll do with open os.get cwd or get current directory, so we don't have to specify this, and this can be ran at on any spot in our computer. It doesn't really matter. Plus an os.sep, depending if you're on Windows or Linux. It's either / or double backslash or however the program reads it. So this takes care of that for you. Just a separator. Then we're going to open up our file name here, which in this case is environment.json. And then we're going to give it the access of read plus to read and then append back or write back. So I think that's all we need. And we're going to actually call this as JSON file. Give that a name. That should be good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set our env equal to the JSON.load command or method of our JSON file that we just called in. So basically, we will be putting all of our values, and I didn't mean to do that, just all of our values from here as this variable name into here now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do some modifications on these variables just to make sure everything is set up right. It's more like safety checks here on this case, in this case. So we're going to set this to a string, typecast it as that, so we get some IntelliSense. This is going to be config.option.env, and we're going to set that to the lowercase version in case they pass in like all uppercase betas, or you pass in all uppercase betas and whatnot. We want it to be lower all the time. Let's see. Then we want this. So this is where we're going to be doing our checks. So since this is required, this is the only reason why we don't have this if statement, which you're about to see. Basically, we're going to say if env at client ID. Oh, sorry. I am screwing that up. Nope. My bad. We're not there yet. If config, my bad. If config dot option dot client ID is not none. So basically we're doing a check here to see if this even exists in this context. Then we do this. env at client ID will equal this. That should be client underscore ID. Double check that. Config.option.client ID. Perfect. All right, so now we can pretty much copy this and do it again. But in this case, it's going to be client secret. And then we're going to be doing URL. Base URL, I mean. Double check, make sure that is named that. Yep. Okay. So we got base URL. We got this. And then maybe one more thing here, just another safety check, just for some IntelliSense here. We'll do to a string, and then we'll just lowercase it. But otherwise, that should be it for our configuration here. And now let's go to our main method here that we're going to be messing with, the configure one. And I'm actually going to put this at the top. Configure. And then so this is going to take our config, which is passed in from our parser and all this other stuff. So you can see, we're just passing all this in. This is Pytest passing and handling all that information. And all we're going to do here is we're going to set a global variable for Pytest to use. So basically, we'll be able to use this in any test that we want. And we're going to call it pytest.env. So this is our env variable now. And we're going to configure env, and we're going to pass in the config. Since this is not a built-in Pytest method, we're just passing in what we get from here, which is here, and then we're going to pass that into this method. And that should all be all we need to do for the Pytest configure for now in this video. A couple other things we need to change here, or add, I guess I should say, is this file seeking. So we're going to set this back to 0. 1 second. Should that be in the width? Yeah, it should be in here. So we're going to be setting the JSON. I'm going to type this out. I had that copied in my notes here. Seek. Oops. Seek 0. And then we're going to dump our env file that we just basically modified and created and all that stuff set up, which is basically we're saving this in another word, JSON file indent is equal to 4. You don't necessarily need this, but I like to keep it this way so it's clean. And then what are we going to do? We're going to truncate, and then we're going to close it. And that should be it. Maybe one more thing we need to do is once we're outside of the app, we definitely need to do that. We need to actually return that value. That's why we have that up there. So we're going to return env. So now this object will be set to this object, or sorry, this object will be set to this at the very end here. And this, all this is doing is we're just, once, like I explained in the other videos, we're going to be writing to this file again. So you don't have to, like, keep putting in that information, except for the environment variable. But I believe that covers it. And if you're having any trouble with any of these methods, like, I don't really know what JSON load does, or I don't know what seek does, or any of this other stuff, there's honestly, using Google is a fantastic research to, look at these methods and what they do. And, back when I was first learning this, they didn't have, I have to say, ChatGPT is a phenomenal resource in terms of understanding things, and especially with coding. It's a great helper in that sense. So you could ask even the free version of ChatGPT, like any of these questions, like why is it like this, or how could I do this better? And it could give you some suggestions that could be beneficial to you. So I do recommend using, honestly, ChatGPT as a resource to complement your learning in this. But yeah, you could easily just go look at all these methods and learn about it. It's the best way to do it, in my opinion. So with that out of the way, we've got our configurations and our environments all set up and whatnot. What we're going to do next in another video is we're going to set up our reports creation and all that stuff. And then we're going to be creating some helper methods up here in a different folder that is going to be universal and reusable. So let's go ahead and call it for this one.